I have been alone on Vero for 11 years now, and I want to say that a person gets used to it, but that would be a lie I tell myself on the bad nights and don't believe on the good ones. They called it a colony once. Now the Dominion calls it a reclamation site, a polite word for a graveyard with the lights still on. I keep 4 of the original 9 domes running. The rest went dark as the funding thinned and the engineers rotated out to brighter stations, worlds with a future stamped on the manifest. I stayed because somebody had to keep the seed vault breathing, and because I did not have anywhere better to be. My daughter took her family up to the Halvern Ring station 30 years back. My grandson was born there, in a steel room with recycled air, and has never once stood on dirt that wasn't grown in a tray. He sends short messages, kind ones, the kind you send a relative you're fond of and don't quite know. That is its own kind of ache, and I don't dwell on it more than the evenings make me. The domes keep me honest about the passage of time better than any calendar. Dome 3 has the oak. Dome 1, the wheat strains nobody eats anymore since the flour mills went up to orbit. Dome 4, gone half feral, vines climbing the old struts like they're trying to get somewhere. I walk the 4 of them every morning in the same order. Check the gauges, top off what needs topping, talk to the plants the way a person talks to herself when there's nobody left to overhear her being foolish. It is not a hard life. It is a quiet one, and there is a difference. So it was an ordinary Tuesday, Dome 3 humming along, when the old relay in the equipment shed lit up with a Dominion priority seal I hadn't seen fire in 6 years. I nearly didn't answer it. Priority seals from the court usually mean somebody wants to inventory what's left of Vero before they strip it for parts. It wasn't that. It was a woman's voice, tired in a way that cut through the formality of her rank, asking if there was still a registered agricultural engineer resident on Vero. I said there was, though I nearly laughed doing it. Resident, like I had a choice. She told me who she was. Regent Eilith Vo, steward of the Dominion, in the absence of a crowned heir, ruling in trust for her grandchild, little Saley, until the girl came of age. And Saley was dying, 9 months old, born in the high orbital nurseries of the new capital, on hydroponic feed and filtered air and sterile bedding from the hour of her birth, same as my own grandson. She had stopped taking milk. Her skin had gone the color of old paper. Every physician in the Dominion had looked at her and found nothing wrong that their instruments could name, which is usually what a doctor says right before they run out of ideas. I asked what her scans showed, out of old habit more than hope, and Regent Vo read me numbers I hadn't heard in decades. Flora counts, microbial diversity readings essentially 0. I sat down on an overturned crate in my equipment shed and felt something cold settle in my chest, because I recognized it. I had written the very same words in a field log 40 years ago, back when we first raised human children on Vero's early domes and half of them sickened for no reason the Dominion physicians of that era could find either. It wasn't a disease. It was an absence. A body raised with nothing living in it, nothing breathing back at it, starts to forget how to be alive. We fixed it back then with something so plain the report almost embarrassed me to file it. I told her, dirt, I said, not sterile substrate, not a nutrient gel. Real soil, alive with everything that crawls and rots and grows in it, introduced to the child the way you'd introduce her to anything else that keeps a person company. There was a silence on the relay long enough that I thought the connection had dropped. Then she asked, very quietly, if I had any. I had the whole vault, 4 domes of it, some of the oldest living soil left anywhere under Dominion rule, cultures older than the woman I was speaking to. I did not send a report. I did not send a data packet or a formula. I took an old tin, the kind I used to pack my lunch in when I was young enough to still eat lunch on a schedule, and I walked out to the 3rd dome in the dark, and I knelt down at the root bed nearest the old oak transplant, the one I'd nursed since it was a cutting, and I took a double handful of the black living earth from around its roots, worms and all. I did not clean it up or make it presentable. I packed it the way you'd pack a gift for someone you already loved, which is to say, carefully, but without vanity. I sent it up on the next supply shuttle with a note that said only, let her hold it, let her smell it, let her put her hands in it if she's old enough to reach. Don't sterilize it, that's the whole cure. Then I went back to my evenings, because that is what a person does when she has done the only thing she knows how to do and has no way of knowing if it worked. 6 weeks went by. I heard nothing, and I told myself that was probably how these things went. A grieving family doesn't send progress reports to an old engineer on an abandoned world, and I didn't expect one. I kept tending my domes. I wrote my grandson a message I didn't send, because I couldn't find a way to finish it that didn't sound like an old woman asking for something she had no right to ask for. Then, on a gray morning with Dome 3's condensation running down the old glass the way it always does before the heat cycle kicks on, a ship came down on the cracked landing pad outside. Small, unmarked, nothing like the requisition freighters I was used to. I went out in my work coveralls, dirt still under my nails, expecting an inspector. It was Regent Eilith Vaux herself, in a plain gray traveling coat with none of the court ceremony on her, and in her arms, wrapped against the cold, was a girl with color in her cheeks, and both small fists closed tight around fistfuls of nothing, the way infants do when they're strong enough to grip. She didn't make a speech. She held the child out toward me, not offering her, just letting me see her, and said that Saley had put her hands in that tin of earth the very first evening, and cried, and then had eaten for the first time in 9 days, and had not stopped improving since. I did not know what to do with my hands, so I did the only thing that felt honest. I reached out one finger, the way you do with any infant, and let her grip it. She held on harder than I expected for something so small. The regent asked what she could give me. Rank, relocation to the capital, a household, anything within a steward's power to grant. I told her, truthfully, that I did not want any of it. I have 4 domes and a seed vault and an oak tree that is finally old enough to flower. And Vero, empty as it is still the only ground I know how to listen to. What I asked for instead was smaller, and she granted it without hesitating. A standing relay line, open whenever I wanted it, so that I might watch the girl grow the way a person watches anything she has helped plant. She agreed on the spot and told me I would always be welcome to ask after her myself, not through any minister, but directly, as one would ask after family. She left before evening. I stood on the pad a long while after the ship had gone, dirt still on my hands, thinking about my own grandson in his steel room 100 light years off, and about a girl on a world I will never see, both of them born into rooms with no ground beneath them, and about the strange, plain luck that let an old woman's handful of dirt reach across all that distance and take root in one of them at least. That night I sent my grandson the message I'd never finished. I told him about Saley, about the oak, about the smell of Dome 3 in the mornings. I told him the door was open if he ever wanted to know what ground felt like under his own hands, and that I'd still be here whenever he decided. He wrote back longer than usual. He asked what dirt smelled like. I didn't try to describe it. I told him I'd send him some, the same as I'd sent the regent's girl, packed in an old tin, worms and all. Some things are better held than explained. I set the relay to standing open, the way I'd promised the regent I would, and some evenings now I switch it on just to watch a small girl 100 light years off learning to walk on legs that used to have no reason to be strong. She falls the way children fall, undramatically, and gets up the same way. It is, I have come to think, the best use anyone has found yet for an old woman's evenings and an old woman's dirt.